You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. Nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday, the 8th of June. Sexual exploitation of white girls is problem in Asian communities, claims prosecutor. Euro 2012 boycott will make no difference, says Ukraine. Bus driver turns away young girl because she was 20p short of £5 fare, which left her walking into the arms of her rapist. Report from the belly of the beast with Nick Griffin MEP, Euro crisis is deepening. French economy slowing and German exports dropping. Spain to request aid for banks this weekend as government bonds downgraded. The West is looking for an excuse as Syrian fighting escalates. Thought for the day, the Charlene Downs appeal. Finally, you cannot have an N in the woodpile anymore. UK news. Sexual exploitation of white girls is a problem in Asian communities, claims prosecutor. It has taken a Muslim to acknowledge the growing problem in the UK that sexual grooming exists within the Asian communities, and moreover to be reported in glowing terms for doing so. Nazir Afzal, Chief Crown Prosecutor for the North West England, has said the status of women among some Asian men led to cases of white girls being sexually abused. He made these comments after two Muslims, Mahfouza Rahman and Abdul Hanan, were convicted of raping or sexually assaulting 4 young women in the region after they had been picked up and plied with drink. A World at 8 reporter commented, whilst Afzal has acknowledged this growing problem, he has also minimised it by putting it down to all communities having this problem, and it is a cultural problem in the Pakistani community. Another thought is that whilst these and many other Muslim men are in jail, they should be deported immediately and their families. It would be a deterrent. Euro 2012 boycott will make no difference, says Ukraine. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office have announced that no ministers will attend England's 3 group games in the Ukraine. The Ukrainian ambassador, Volodymyr Gandogi, said he regretted the decision but felt it was wrong as sport and politics do not mix. He also called this snub of the England's Euro 2012 matches a misjudgment, which will make little difference. The ambassador obviously believes this decision is down to the Yulia Tymoshenko issue, but a World at 8 reporter thinks it is nearer home. I believe this decision, which has also been taken by France and Germany, is because of the racist issues surrounding the British team, who appear to be mainly black. There was an article written in the Mail last week by a black journalist stating outright that the Ukrainians were openly racist. In the current socialist and multicultural climate, these ministers feel going to the Ukraine, even in support of our team, would lend credence to that feeling of racism being correct. We really should allow for the fact that other countries feel that a home team should be just that and are not so downtrodden as us Brits are. A 22-year-old law student begged a bus driver to let her on board, but he refused because she was just 20p short of the £5 fare for her journey home. Not one of the other passengers on board offered to help her, with the result she was left at the mercy of a rapist. CCTV footage shows the victim pleaded for 8 minutes before being turned away. Joseph Moran, 19, pounced as his victim began to walk home. She was so badly battered that her mother failed to recognise her. Moran, who has convictions for burglary and assault, was found guilty of rape and wounding with intent by a jury at Nottingham Crown Court yesterday. Described in court as a dangerous and violent predator, Moran, a self-confessed repeat car thief and drug user, muttered his way through giving evidence, peppering his monosyllabic answers with "in it" and "yeah." A young neighbour told the Mail he was a troublemaker who was always high on weed and really rough. Judge James Sampson adjourned the sentencing until July the 27th for reports, but told Moran an indeterminate sentence for public protection was a realistic possibility. And now we have the Euro news from the belly of the beast with Nick Griffin, MEP.
For the first time since I started my journeys into the belly of the Brussels beast back in July 2009, I'm beginning to think that the whole nightmare of EU rule could be over sooner than we ever dared to think. Even the most fanatical Europhiles, both in the political elite, in Britain and in Europe, and in the liberal media, are now admitting that the Euro crisis is out of control and has the potential to get very much worse. Of course, Commissar Barroso and all the talking heads, including Osborne and Cameron, are trying to turn the crisis into the opportunity they always wanted to impose total fiscal union on the entire Eurozone. But with Spain's debt bailouts now estimated to end up needing 450 billion euros to sort out, it's virtually impossible to see where they can find the money, especially as there will have to be more bailouts for Greece, Portugal and Ireland, followed by Italy, Belgium and in due course France. Quite simply, when the Europhiles first created the single currency, they knew that one day the productivity gap between Germany and southern Europe would in due course create a crisis that could be used as an excuse to impose total economic union. That was their plan from day one. But they envisaged Germany shelling out to cover the relatively minor debts created by this trade imbalance. They totally failed to foresee that the pre-planned beneficial crisis would end up being rolled into the debt apocalypse that has been produced by the ongoing collapse of the entire toxic banking system of the Western world. So Germany doesn't have the money to pay for the mother and grandmother of all bailouts now required. Even if she did, there is zero chance of German voters allowing their political elite to blow their hard-earned savings and post-war economic stability, which in the wake of what went before is the foundation stone of modern Germany's identity and self-respect, on saving a southern Europe whose peoples in turn are likely to take up arms rather than accept the humiliation and austerity that would come as their part of the deal to turn them into German protectorates. Of course, the economists and the political pundits try to make it all too complicated for us ordinary folk to understand, so that we leave it to the experts. But the truth is that it's really very simple. The planned federal European bailout is impossible because there's neither the money to pay for it, nor the ruthless political will or the popular willingness to enforce it. The project cannot be completed, but neither can it stand still. So, either the political elite will continue to waffle and fiddle around until it all collapses under the weight of its own inherent possibility, in which case it'll probably take the whole European project down with it, or they will try to impose it and spark off a popular rebellion in southern Europe that will end up with them being lucky to escape swinging from the lampposts of Brussels. I don't know how long it'll take, but I can't now see any other way for this to end. In the words of the ancient Chinese curse, we live in interesting times.
World news. The French economy is slowing and German exports are dropping. The Bank of France has cut its forecast for the French economy as a number of sectors decline and begin to contract as French unemployment hits 10%. Germany, one of the few Eurozone countries still showing signs of growth, watched as exports fell 1.7% in April and their imports fell 4.8%. One financial analyst from Conti Group has said, the recent escalation of the debt crisis is leaving its mark. Orders are also declining because of the weaker global demand, and exports are likely to fall further in the months ahead because of this. But we won't see a complete collapse. Spain to request aid for banks this weekend as government bonds downgraded. Spain is expected to make a request over the weekend for a financial package to prop up its troubled banks, according to reports. The announcement is expected for Saturday afternoon, an EU official has said. Spanish government officials could not immediately be reached for comment. The news comes after a serious mishandling of the debt crisis by European leaders led Fitch to axe Spain's credit ratings by 3 notches and issue warnings on the stability of countries' banks, debt levels and economy. This is dampening recent optimism that Eurozone leaders are moving closer to a rescue package for Spain's beleaguered banking system. The West is looking for an excuse as Syrian fighting escalates. The West is looking for new means to get involved in the Syrian conflict. American newspapers are reporting that the fighting in Syria is escalating and government troops and their civilian supporters are blocking unarmed United Nations monitors from investigating reports of a new massacre. They are reporting that new shelling by government forces in the central city of Homs came a day after sharp denunciations of Damascus from diplomats who have struggled vainly to find a workable consensus solution to the crisis. And that Thursday's standoff at a government checkpoint seems to symbolise the international paralysis over how to stem the bloodshed. United Nations monitors stationed across the country, including Deir el-Zur, Idlib, Homs and Hama, as well as Aleppo, Syria's biggest city, have all reported increased shelling and firing. You see a more than serious uptick in violence in all the places where we are, said Jean-Marie Gaheno, a senior deputy to Special Envoy Kofi Annan. A World Date writer says it makes you wonder who is behind the uptick. Thought for the day. Karen Downs' appeal. This is a thought for us all, even in the regions not yet so affected by these crimes, which have become endemic in the north of our country. Tomorrow is our day of justice for Charlene Downs. Karen Downs is the mother of Charlene. Imagine how you'd feel if your 13-year-old daughter had been groomed, raped and murdered by racist Muslim paedophiles. By racist we mean that these bastards target children not of their race or religion. Imagine if your daughter's body had been disposed of so you couldn't even have a funeral. Imagine if the two men charged with her murder, after being caught boasting about it, walked free from court with £500,000 compensation as a result of police incompetence. Imagine if the CPS refused to order a retrial and the police ignored evidence of jury rigging. Now use your imagination further and wonder how you would feel if the same police, whose bungling had denied your little girl justice, slapped an order on you, banning you from joining a peaceful protest calling for the said retrial and justice. Because that is the terrible position that this brave mother, Karen Downs, is in this weekend in Blackpool. If she goes so much as near the takeaway still owned by one of the suspects, she will be arrested, thrown into a police cell and dragged before the magistrates as a common criminal. Now we are seeing the true edicts of the Marxist multicultural face of Britain today, the one that promotes the culture of a foreign invader above that of the indigenous people of this country, and also the many people who, many years ago, adopted our country as their own. So please come to Blackpool to demonstrate where Karen cannot. Or, if you can't make it, then please send a donation to help pay for the Justice for Charlene campaign that starts in Blackpool tomorrow. Leaflets, banners and demos cost money, but what is money compared to justice? Thank you for sharing Karen's pain and for giving her the hope that justice will finally be done. And finally, a Tory councillor forced to apologise over racist N-word gaffe. It has been reported that a Conservative Party councillor, Jerry Forsbury, has been made to apologise after making a racist N-word gaffe during a council meeting in Staines last week. Forsbury, who is a Borough Town Councillor for Spelthorne, Surrey, made the comment amidst gasps from the public gallery. The veteran politician told the meeting, "I don't want to be the nigger in the woodpile." Poor old bugger, they haven't even dared print the N-word in full, so here it is. Nigger in a woodpile. A World at 8 writer looked it up in the Oxford Thesaurus and guessed what it said. The first verb applied was derog, which stands for derogatory. What rubbish! Black people call each other nigger all the time. It is apparently from the Spanish negra for black. I always thought that the origins of this now naughty word were the river and country Niger in Africa, which even the BBC now pronounce Niger instead of Niger, which isn't so far removed from nigger. The term nigger in the woodpile is stated as a hidden cause of trouble, so the book isn't too far removed on that one. Well, I have a thought. If you do not call us white, racist Nazis and worse, I will not call you niggers. Is that okay? You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozar, and I and the team at Radio Britain wish you all a very good night, and we hope that we see all of you tomorrow, the 9th, in Blackpool. Thank you. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office have announced that no ministers will attend England's 3 group games in the Ukraine. The Ukrainian ambassador, Volodymyr Gandogi, said he regretted the decision but felt it was wrong as sport and politics do not mix. He also called this snub of the England's Euro 2012 matches a misjudgment, which will make little difference. The ambassador obviously believes this decision is down to the Yulia Tymoshenko issue, but a World at 8 reporter thinks it is nearer home. I believe this decision of raping or sexually assaulting 4 young women in the region after they had been picked up and plied with drink. A World at 8 reporter commented, "Whilst Afzal has acknowledged this growing problem, he has also minimised it by putting it down to all communities having this problem, and it is a cultural problem in the Pakistani community. Another thought is that whilst these and many other Muslim men are in jail, they should be deported immediately and their families. It would be a deterrent." Euro 2012 boycott will make no difference, says Ukraine. Bus driver turns away young girl because she was 20p short of £5 fare, which left her walking into the arms of her rapist. Report from the belly of the beast with Nick Griffin MEP, Euro crisis is deepening. French economy slowing and German exports dropping. Spain to request aid for banks this weekend as government bonds downgraded. The West is looking for an excuse as Syrian fighting escalates. Thought for the day, the Charlene Downs appeal. Finally, you cannot have an N in the woodpile anymore. UK News. Sexual exploitation of white girls is a problem in Asian communities, claims prosecutor. It has taken a Muslim to acknowledge the growing problem in the UK that sexual grooming exists within the Asian communities, and moreover to be reported in glowing terms for doing so. Nazir Afzal, Chief Crown Prosecutor for the North West England, has said the status of women among some Asian men led to cases of white girls being sexually abused. He made these comments after two Muslims, Mahfuza Rahman and Abdul Hanan, were convicted.
You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Mozart. Nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, Friday, the 8th of June. Sexual exploitation of white girls is problem in Asian communities, claims prosecutor. Euro 2012 boycott will make no difference.